Hey everybody, Kevin here from HumboldtCraftworks. Welcome back to another episode of Woodworking with Mr. Kevin. That's me. It's been a few weeks since I've even done a video because I've had a sinus infection that happened while I was building those redwood windows. It started happening then, and you can actually hear it in my voice as we get through this video today, building Charlotte's tables and chairs. Not contagious or anything, so you guys can get closer to the screen if you like. So in today's video of Charlotte's table and chairs, this is what we're going to do. In today's video, we're going to lay out the tabletop and we're going to get it all mitered up and ready to go. We're going to attach the little brackets on the side to the legs and the skirt so we can actually attach that tabletop down and it will expand and contract. After that, we have to fix a little knot hole that was on the side of the damn table. So I'm going to show you how to epoxy fill a knot hole. And if you don't know how to do it, watch it. It's pretty cool. And it comes out looking awesome. So once that epoxy's done, then we're going to trace out all the legs for the back of the chair and we're going to cut them on the bandsaw. And I'm also going to do the backrests on the bandsaw. I'm going to show you how to do all that safely, and I'm going to show you a weird technique I use. So if you have a bandsaw blade and it's 3/4 of an inch thick and you really want to put on the 1/4 inch one to make a sharper turn, I'm going to show you how to use your bandsaw in a different way.
What?
And then once we get done bandsawing all our parts out, we're going to go over onto the router table. I'm going to show you the safest way to flush trim all your parts using double stick tape on the template, and we'll just flush trim all the back legs. And once we get done with that, we're going to take the back rests that we bandsawed out and we're going to edge sand them on the edge sander. And I'm going to show you how to use that back roller because you can do that. And then we're just going to use the front part and the normal part of the edge sander to do the backs of the back rests. And then that'll be the end for this video. So we got new videos coming up for this year. We got the curved cabinets Benbow. I'm starting to draw a new curved cabinet for the Benbow guy. Like an 8-foot tall cabinet that's about yay big around and all curved. That's a blanket chest. It's just for blankets and it's all curved. Yeah, I always get the weird ones, you know. Weird. Mr. Kevin's weird and he gets weird projects. So, all right, well, let's get to the video and sorry for the long intro. Thanks for watching, everybody. And thanks for everybody who subscribed. If you have any questions, please comment below or just say hello, comment below or email me. There's an email address down there somewhere. Let's get to the program. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back. The lower half of Charlotte's table is done. The legs and the skirt is all together. I think I'm just gonna put little 45-degree brackets in here and a hole in each one. I'm gonna use like a 1/4 inch hole and I'm gonna screw up a screw with a washer on it and it'll just hold the damn thing in place. So I can pocket screw it to the legs and also to both sides of the skirt. And that'll keep it a little stronger in case she wants to pick it up and throw it on the floor. It might not break it apart as fast. So I'm going to measure from here to here, and we're going to add an inch to both sides. So basically 2 inches. I'm just going to mark the center here. We'll do it on both sides here. I'm just going to come down with a pencil. And I'm going to line that up with the center of this piece of walnut here. So this is the side that's going to be up. We'll just draw it on the top. How's that? Okay. That way we can kind of line out and look down to see what we're getting, right? Just gonna put a line at 2 inches. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trace this whole thing out. Okay, so I'm lining up my pencil marks right now. That's good. And then we're just gonna add an inch to that side there and take our 18-inch square. I'm gonna butt it up against one of these legs. Let me see if I can get you to see what I'm doing here. Just butt it in there, just like that. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Boop, like that. I'm gonna come across here. I'm just going to 45 across. So what we're going to wind up doing is cutting the tabletop face up like it is now to these marks here. So I'm going to rip it. I'm going to 45 cut it on the chop saw. So we got all the corners 45. We're going to sand all the edges and I'm going to put a little tiny bit of a round over on it. And I'm going to ease the edges. That way Charlotte won't smash the crap out of herself when she hits her head on it, because that's what happens. Oh, look at that. Right in the middle of a knot. Well, that's exciting. We're gonna have to use some epoxy. Have I showed you the epoxy trick yet?
No.
All right, so we have the whole thing laid out now, and that should give us a 1-inch reveal all the way around, that's good enough. So when I talked about epoxy, see this knot right here? On the back side, it's even bigger. Look how big that is. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna epoxy this after I've cut it, and hopefully it'll stay in one piece. I'm gonna use clear epoxy, and I'll show you how to do clear epoxy fill. Just regular epoxy you get at the hardware store, but you got to mix it up nice and slow so you don't get any air bubbles, or try not to. You need to heat it up so it's warm, and hopefully when it gets done it'll just look like a knot, but it's hard as a rock and it's clear. I'm going to rip it and cross cut it, and then I'm going to chop these on the chop saw. I'll flip you over there so you can see. I'll just speed it up. I'm gonna have to remark this side because I moved it down a little bit to avoid a little, there's a piece of poop that I wanted to cut out, so I just bumped it over an extra 1/8 of an inch when I cut it. Squeaker said I should have thought of that beforehand. Shh. Squeakers is always right. Here's that knot that we have to fix. I'm gonna fix that knot and we'll go from there. I'm just gonna put this on here. We still have our pencil marks on there from before. Line all the centers up with the centers, and then we're gonna come over here and put the small square up there. That's an inch away. Okay, there we go. Funny, while I was milling all this stuff, I was thinking, well, the front legs for the chair, I kind of want to do this too. So they all kind of match. I just opened up a can of worms in my head. Oh no. All right, here we go. I'm just gonna set that on there, line that up. There we go. So that should go there. That's 1 inch. That's 1 inch also. Okay, clamp it, Jed. Clamp this Johnson in place here. And there it is. Whee! Okay, now I'm gonna take my little Sharpie, I'm gonna mark on the inside. Usually what I'll do is I'll mark like that, and then I'm gonna mark a line like this. And then I'll write next to it A or B or whatever. Once I got that one down, I know where it is. All the rest fall into place. Okay, now that we've got that all labeled and we know where that's gonna go, we should probably put 45-degree little cleats in here to help hold it together. I should use something else like cherry, because walnut's just not very strong, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have leftovers from these, which are the backs. That would be burly. Do I have enough to do? I do. Shazam. All right. So that's what we're gonna do. These are the backs of the chairs. I don't know if you can see where I drew out where this little template was. Boom, right there. So I'm just gonna shape this, but these parts that are on either end are free game. I don't know if they're long enough. We're gonna find out right now. Very possibly. Hold on, let me see. Do this. Yeah, look how thick that is. I'm gonna just pocket screw that into place. Okay, you see that? And we're gonna hold it down just barely, just like one of those paper shims that I use all the time. So we're gonna put a pocket screw in either side. We're gonna glue the snot out of it. And then we're gonna pocket screw this in here, and then I'm gonna drill a hole in it. And that way we can put a regular screw in there with a little washer on it, and it'll have room for moving around and expand and contract, because you don't want to lock in this tabletop permanently because it'll crack. If you didn't know that, I'll make a video on that later. So I'm going to finish these two up, and then we'll take the top and I'll belt sand all of it down, and I'll show you how to fix the knot hole using epoxy. And then when we get done with that, I'll start bandsawing these parts out and the back parts for the chairs, and we'll probably do the chairs tomorrow. All right, everybody, I'll see you in a bit. Thanks for watching. Okay, so it does feel stronger with these little brackets in here. I gotta find my bit. I'll flip it over and drill straight down into a hunk of wood. All right, there it is. My drawer front bit. It's 1/4 inch. So now we have holes. You see all the holes down in there? That is a good thing. We're going to belt sand this flat. I'm just gonna hit the back really quick because I want to keep my lines, and it doesn't really matter what the bottom looks like. The top does, and usually what I do is put pencil marks like that so I can pay attention to what the hell I'm doing. Go all the way to the end, all the way up. That way I know where the belt sander is cutting, or where it has cut, and what I need to cut off. This is the worst design ever made of any belt sander ever. Put the dust port where it blows in your face. Yeah, that's smart. When we're belt sanding, we always use a little tiny cleat that's smaller than the wood that we're using. Put it right there in the middle. We're just gonna screw this in. All right, so now we have our little cleat down there, our little bench dog, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, here we go. Time lapse this. This is ridiculous. And go. That's pretty good. Got a little spot right here. If you ever want to feel if you got any dents or anything, don't look at what you're feeling. Don't look at your feelings. Aww. Look somewhere else. Your hands can feel all sorts of dents. If you really want to feel it, take off your gloves. There's the back. There's the front. Here's the knot we're going to fix. While I have this thing set up, I might as well just do this. I'm going to edge sand the end grain. If you don't know how to use a belt sander, there's 2 videos over here somewhere, over here and over here. They'll help you out, hopefully. Here we go. That's it. If you don't have an edge sander, Belt sander's cheaper. Once you figure out how to use it, it's good to go. All right, so now we got to figure this out. First thing I'm going to do is fill the back hole up with glue. I want to see if it pops out anywhere. I'm just rubbing the glue in. If it comes out the other side, so be it. And it is coming out, you can see right there. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to tape that off, and then we're going to epoxy everything else. Okay, now that we have it like this, so we have our Band-Aid on the back, it's got glue, we filled it all the way up. We have this piece like this. We're going to blow it out with air. We're going to give it the wiggle test. See if anything comes out of it. All right, now that we've done that, I'm going to put tape on this face here. I got some blue tape. It's sticking up just slightly. It's because we want a little dam there, and we're going to fill that up with clear epoxy. We're going to use this, the gun that launched my career in woodworking, the heat gun. How to undo glue. It's the only video I ever had that broke 50 or 60,000. We're not going to undo glue. What we're going to do is we're going to use this to heat up this, and that's important. So I always tape the top of my caps on, and I always keep epoxy up, just like that when I store it up. So all the air bubbles go to the top, so when you squeeze some epoxy out, there's no air bubbles. And that way you get an even amount. Okay, and I'm going to squeeze about that much out. That's way more than I need. I'm going to take this, hit this real quick. I'm not going to go crazy, just a little bit. It's on low. And all of a sudden you'll see it just go, and relax. And that's when you know it's ready to go. And it just did that. We're going to take ourselves a toothpick and now we're going to mix this together. See how easily it flows? And what you want to do is try to make it bubble free. Keep the toothpick on the bottom, stir it all together, and usually what'll happen is your epoxy will change colors like it is doing right now. It'll get opaque, and that means it's all mixing together, and once it goes back to translucent, clear, it's ready to go. And you got about 5 to 10 minutes to work with this until it starts getting gooey. It's clear, there's no air bubbles in it. So I'm gonna take this now, and I'm gonna put the epoxy in the hole. Here, I'll show you. Spin it up, get a whole pile on there, and you're gonna tap it into place. And then we're gonna hit this with the heat gun again, just to make sure it's all nice and loosey-goosey and not stiff like it is now. Put it on low. And when you heat this up, sometimes it'll bring the air bubbles up to the surface. And when you're doing knots and things like this, it works pretty good. Yeah, this is already starting to kick. You can see how it's wispy. See how it's getting wispy? I don't know if you can see that or not. So we're just gonna leave that the way it is. I'm gonna heat this up again just a little bit more. See, not enough to burn your hand. And if any bubbles are gonna come to the surface, it's gonna do it now. So now we're gonna let that sit until tomorrow, just like that. When it kicks quick. Yeah, look at that. See that? Blah. It kicks faster when you heat it up, but when it's this cold out, you need to heat it up. And I'll show you what it looks like when I sand it off tomorrow. That air bubble might still be there. All right, well, there we go. We're gonna let that sit until tomorrow. You guys have a good night. I'll see you in a minute. So let's check our epoxy over here. See how it looks. All right, well, there it is. Feels nice and hard. So before we do anything else, here's what we're gonna do. Edge sand that off with the belt sander and edge sand all these corners. Maybe grab like an 1/8 inch round over bit or something small like that, and we're gonna round this whole thing over. So right now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna edge sand all the parts and we'll call it good. We're gonna speed this up because this is boring. Maestro. All right, we're gonna clamp this into place and we're gonna get some 1.5 inch screws and we're gonna screw this in from underneath using washers and a screw, and then we'll screw that top down and it'll be done. Okay, so I'm just gonna drill a little hole and I have that bit just set, just like that, so it's sticking down like 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so I got a little tiny fender washer and 1.5 inch screw. So I'm just trying to start them by hand so I don't miss that hole that I just put in there. Yeah, you'll know it once you get it because it'll just go right in the hole. It just falls into place. And then I'm gonna screw this in. Okay, so there you go. And that should hold it in place. It should allow it to expand and contract because we drilled a 1/4-inch hole. All right, everybody, well, Charlotte's table is done. That's the first part of the project. We still have to fill this little tiny hole with epoxy, which I'll do in a minute. And it should all blend together, and we'll just sand it by hand. There's a spot, it's right here. I don't know if I can zoom in or not, but it's right there, just itty bitty little spot. And I'm gonna take some blue tape and I'm gonna build a dam around that. Just heating up the epoxy just a little bit. I gotta double up. Oh, now I can really see. All right, here we go. I'm just spinning up with just a little dab. Tap it in the bottom of that hole. And I think I got it all. There we go, I got the whole thing now. I'm gonna take a picture of it with my camera so you can actually see it. Okay. Now here's the tricky part right here. We're just gonna take this and we're gonna fold it over. Okay, we're not going over the bump itself. We're just squishing it in around it. I'll take another picture here. Okay, it should be up there. And that is how we're gonna leave it. And then we'll probably pull the tape off later about 5:30 tonight, just let it breathe and dry for a day or so. All right, here we go. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna trace out the leg. Is that a good spot for the leg? So I'll trace it out. It'd be better if I could see what I was doing. And what's gonna happen now is I'm gonna cut these out on the bandsaw. I'm gonna leave them about a 1/16 of an inch proud of the line. And then we're gonna go and flush trim them using double stick tape on the Jess M router table. Next time I'll see you, you'll be over here once I clean this mess off. So now we're gonna cut the back legs for the chairs. First thing we have to figure out is which way are the easiest cut. So if we're gonna cut it like this, we have to start over here. You can see the problem, kind of gets in the way. We're gonna cut these like this. We can push these away from us, which is good. So that's how we're gonna cut them. We're gonna cut every single one just the way this one's facing. So here's the first problem right here. We gotta lower this down. You want these wheels up here, these rollers, to be like within an inch or so of what you're cutting. And you're gonna see me take probably several swipes at this as I'm going around the corner because it's kind of a sharp radius to do with a bandsaw blade this wide. See if we can do this before the battery dies. So it takes about 4 or 5 cuts to go around like that. Now this one we can just kind of nice and slow. You don't want to push it too fast either. I'm using this finger to guide it. I'm pushing with this hand over here. That thing's making all sorts of noise. Okay, and what you should have is a little bit of this showing everywhere. See that? Now we can grind this way too. You get close to that line, see that? You can actually grind. You're using the blade as like a disc sander or an edge sander. Just grind it off. All right, there you go. You can see how much is left to flush trim off, and that's what we're gonna do next. You can do this with any part. If you saw the curved cabinets Bimbo, you saw me do it a bunch of times on all sorts of curved parts. It's the easiest, fastest way to duplicate a part over and over again. If you're gonna make hundreds of parts, you wanna put little holes in them and figure out where it's not seen so you can actually put screws in it so it will, you can just screw them in and out. Or you can figure out how to put Destaco clamps on there so you can just clamp it into place. Usually when I'm doing 4 or 5 parts, even 10 parts, I'm just gonna take double stick tape, put 2 pieces of double stick tape on there and just clamp it down and it's on there. Make sure when you put the double stick tape out, you put it somewhere like on the ends, somewhere where you can get to it, because if you put them right in the center on both sides, it's hard to pry them damn things out of there because double stick tape works really good. What we're gonna do now is I've taken this template here, so I've traced out the backrest, which is gonna be slightly curved, and I put green tape on there so I can actually see what I'm doing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut just outside that line, just a little bit. We got 3 to cut right here. 2 are gonna be the upper backs, and 1's gonna be ripped down on the table saw, so it'll be the bottom rest. I tightened the tension up on this, so it's pretty stiff. I'm gonna actually just do it a little more. That's about as tense as I can get it. I'm gonna put the headphones on and crank on the dust collector, and here we go. see the line is still there, right? You can still see the line a little bit. Cut is fairly square, so don't push it. When the grain is like this, if you push it hard, one, you're gonna start wavering all over the place. I kind of wavered right here a little bit, and at the very end, you can see the very end right here. We're gonna edge sand this whole thing just on the drum of the end of the edge sander, just to get it smooth. I don't really care how thick it is. They're pretty close to being the same thickness. That's 1 inch on the money, 1 inch. Yeah, they're all 1 inch. And there you go, there's the backs, bandsawed out. All right, everybody, we're here on the Just M router table. I have a few things that I want to talk about real quick. That is router bits. I have 3 different router bits here. These are all usable. So this is really good for flush trimming. It's got a bearing on the top and the bottom, as you can see. And it's got a slight angle to the cutter, which is good. There's a pattern bit. There's a 1/2 inch pattern bit with a nice bearing on it, very sharp. Straight up and down cutters though, okay? You can use that, it's tall enough. And then we have the old nasty looking thing here. This is a solid carbide spiral cutter with 2 bearings on the top. And out of all of them, this is the one you want to use for something like this because of the twist. So out of all 3 of these, this is the one we're going to use. If you have an opportunity to buy one, I would if you're doing a lot of duplication of parts. This is kind of expensive. They're all kind of expensive. This is the most expensive out of all of them. These 2 work good, but if you can, you want spiral head with a double bearing. And that's what we're going to use today. So we have the router all the way up on the table. We're going to place the bit in there, just like that. We don't want it down all the way. We want it up right where the shoulder is. See that? Now we're going to take our template and our hunk of wood, and we're going to bring that down. So the cutter starts about 1/8 of an inch above this hunk of wood. And this template is going to sit right on top of that, and that's how it's all going to go. And then we're just going to set that up in place. I'm going to pull the double stick tape off, kind of get it lined up where we want, and we're going to squeeze it together. We're actually going to bring this fence a little closer. You lock that in place, make sure all your fence parts are good. Make sure everything's sticking up and over and around, and you got enough on the back, and just squeeze them together. Okay, that should hold on there. You don't want too much of this sticking out, especially on the end grain. So if there's too much of this sticking out, no matter what, if it's spiral or not, it's going to explode, especially the end grain like down in here. So if you have to, you could chop that on your chop saw because it's going to be a square cut anyway, just to get closer, or you can grind that, or you can grind this off using your disc sander or anything else, or you can use the bandsaw like I did and just grind that off a little more. Just be careful you don't hit your template. So we're going to practice. Here we go. I'm going to come across here and grind the tip off. All right, and then we're going to come through here and cut, and we're going to stop. I'm going to pull it back, come back through here, just feed it around, come to the end, feed it through, and then shove it through like that. It's all being cut down here, so we can't really see what's going on. So we're going to have to do it by feel, and hopefully it doesn't blow apart. And it does happen, so be careful. This is kind of dangerous. That's what I'm saying. If you can, make sure that that's not sticking out more than it is right now. That's a 1/16 of an inch. The back is totally flat. We're not hitting it. But we can start there, and we can end there because it's totally flush. It doesn't like cutting the end grain. Check that out. Look at the burn. Look at the bottom. So it's time for a new bit. Yeah, so there it is. There's one leg. Now we got to take this apart. This can be a pain in the butt sometimes. You got to be careful. This putty knife is razor sharp. There we go. All right, there it is. So the old double stick tape trick works again. It takes no time to flush trim it. You just got to take your time when you're flush trimming it. You don't want to rush it. You don't want to push it hard. You just want to let it cut. If you push it too hard, it's going to kick back and fling that piece out of your hand. Ask me how I know. How do they look? Squeaker says they should look amazing, and squeakers would know. But there we go. All the parts are all the same. So if you're going to build anything where you want to do multiple whatever, whether it's legs or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Flush trimming them is the way to go. So hopefully that helps somebody out there. If you haven't flush trimmed a lot of parts or had to make parts before for anything, well, now you know how to. All right, everybody, well, welcome to the edge sander. This is a wonderful jet pile of crap edge sander. The platen is not flat. It is 10 years old, but it still runs. And I don't use it that much, but when I do, it comes in really handy. And this is one of the times when it comes in handy. It's not the best thing in the world, but it does work. It's good for edge sanding pieces flat like that, and also for doing curved pieces like this. And that's what we're gonna do right now. And what I'm trying to do here is just, let's see if I can get the angle right. So all those bandsaw marks we're gonna try to remove. And then once we have all 3 of these done on the inside, then we're gonna do the outside on this guy right here. And then we'll be done. And hopefully we don't kill ourselves in the process. All right, so here we go with this one. So all I'm gonna do here is just edge sand this just like this using my fingers. So the direction of the belt's going this way. So you don't want to push too hard this way because it'll kick in and flip around like that. So you just kind of ease into it and just kind of push across. And I'm going to use my fingers just like that and hopefully get rid of all that nastiness. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sand this with 150. It's not absolutely perfect, but it's good enough for what we're doing. Yeah, Squeaker says we have to sand it down and make it look better. So the edge sander, you can actually make curved pieces of wood. There it is, look, it's curved. If you put them all 3 together, they're not absolutely perfect. There's the front, you know what I mean? They're done by hand. The old edge sander trick worked again. All right, so now we're gonna take these all over to the bench and sand them with 120 and 150 and round the edges over a little bit and go from there. All right, onwards and upwards, there we go. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Bye. Magic button.
Subscribe now.
We're going to show you how to build the. Yep. I was going to shoot. You know what? So, clean up my bench here. Every time I eat lunch, I don't make sense afterwards. It's like, oh. I will figure that out. Man, if I eat food, man, it makes me stupid. I just want to take a nap now. And I'm doing this with my hands. Hello. Hello, everybody. How are you? I just got done eating dinner.
Warning.
I got something on my face. Oh, my goodness. I feel like I got something hanging off my face. Oh, I had snot on my face. Gesundheit.